Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Good afternoon. I am Robert Press. As you see a picture of Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez, my congresswoman behind me, I will tell you that here is my press card, and I moderated the debate in 2018 between Joe Crowley, stand-in, and our now Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. And I may be looking at the picture, asking questions as we have new congressional lines, but we'll get into that later. And my co-host is Anthony RIVIECCIO. Anthony, would you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, Robert. Good morning, everyone. My name is Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO. As most people know, I like to say I have three lives. My first and predominant life is that I am the current CEO of RIVIECCIO Financial Advisors, an online financial advisory firm. My second life is that I'm an adjunct professor of personal finance as well at both Herbert H. Lehman College and at Monroe College, both located here in the Bronx. And my third life is that I am a wonderful founder of a local political group here called Northwest Bronx Democrats, who, of course, worked and endorsed Ms. Ocasio-Cortez in her first campaign. I don't know, Robert, if you're familiar with her announcement this morning that she was asked why she voted against the Build Back Better plan, and her answer this morning was, well, I voted against it because I thought it was bad that illegal aliens should get money.
Anthony, I think
you should think about changing that sign.
I don't always agree with my congresswoman, but I think she's doing a terrific job. Okay? That's my answer to you. And let's talk to her if I can. And because we're going to the Ukraine now as world politics, and we're in a situation that gas prices have gone up at least 25 cents a gallon. It's almost $4 a gallon now. We're on the brink of war in Ukraine. What do we know about the Ukraine, Mr. Ocasio-Cortez? Anything? I mean, you went down to the southern border. What is happening with the Ukraine? Maybe Anthony can tell us, because I believe he's making an announcement at 4 p.m. So, Anthony, tell us about the announcement, please.
Oh, my Lord. Well, I can't tell you anything specific about the announcement, but of course we can look at what has happened 24 hours before. Not too many people might be aware, because it happened last night, that the Joe Biden administration pretty much told all Americans that are in Ukraine to basically get out. And they assisted last night in helping everyone to basically get out. So with things that have happened last night, things that the president, not the president, but his staff are now saying early this morning, and now with the president publicly announcing he's going to have, and notice, a 4 p.m. announcement, right? The stock market closes at 4 p.m., right? So, like I said, there comes a point where 1 and 1 is 2. And the president told us earlier in the week, hey, guys, be ready. So I don't wish it upon anyone, but I know what I told my financial colleagues this morning to do with their suggested market allocation.
So what is the market right now, Anthony? It's open. How is it doing?
The market right now is actually pretty mixed, because if I sounded mixed a minute ago, that's actually how the market is doing now. For the week, it is not a good picture. There are some good signs, but that's really based on the interpretation of what we call economic indicators, which I'll get more into at our 5 p.m. show.
Okay, but so we're having almost another Afghanistan withdrawal, is what you're saying.
Last night, it was announced by the Biden administration to assist in anyone and everyone in Ukraine to get out. and of course, Joe Biden has been talking with Putin the last couple of days, both publicly and privately. And again, I'm sure none of us wish war, but certain things are now, imminent. So, I just hope on Monday we're still all in one piece.
Well, that's because in several news interviews on different channels, they interviewed people from the Ukraine who live there, and they said, we're going to fight to the end. So it looks like it's going to be bad if it does happen. All right, it's not going to be a good war. Wars are never good, but the Ukrainians say they're ready to fight the Russians. I don't know how you can fight a tank with, say, a gun, and if they're using almost World War II tactics, surround the enemy, and I'm surprised the aircraft hasn't come in. The planes. That's the way Hitler did it.
You know what? And I don't want to talk about it too much, only because it's a very sad subject. But I'll be honest with you. In my own humble opinion, I think Putin has been very nice, right? He's given 29 warnings. He said, hey, guys, this is happening. This is happening. This is happening. Get out now. Get out now. If we're not prepared by now, it's our fault.
Let me just ask you one question. We saw how Donald Trump handled Kim in North Korea. We saw him how he handled other leaders. Would things be different if Donald Trump was president? I know it's a loaded question.
Would things be different? I want to be sure I understood your question. Would things be different if Donald Trump was president?
Mm-hmm.
I do know this much. I believe Donald Trump would have met him personally.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it would have been in Russia or here, I could have been both for all we know. I think Mr. Trump would have had a heart-to-heart talk with him. And I think it actually could have been, at the end of the day, possibly more risky, right? What is that old saying? And I know I'm going to be called a sexist when I say this. What's that old saying about talking to a woman when she's pregnant, right? Or talking to a woman when she's on a period, right?
I'm not going to say
it's going to be the same thing. You're going to have Putin having a bad day, Donald Trump having a bad day, and one day they're going to both have bad days in this meeting and wobble.
Well, don't you think Joe Biden is having bad days?
Well, let me put it this way: the answer to that solution, which is the end part of that joke, by the way, is just give them Haagen-Dazs.
Haagen-Dazs?
Yes.
That's not.
It works every time.
Okay, that was ice cream from Denmark. Okay,
It still works every time.
Yeah, but Anthony, I worked for a company. We came out with Fruzen Glacier, which was a match for Haagen-Dazs, and it was even better. Believe it or not, that's not because I sold it.
Robert, if you have a lady that's on her period and she's having a bad day, and you give her some Haagen-Dazs, I guarantee the rest of your day will be good.
Well, I'm not going to go into that, Anthony. You must be.
Well, you're suggesting other types of ice cream because you have affiliations with the company. That's great, but I'm still saying give them Haagen-Dazs.
Well, right now it's Ben & Jerry's. They seem to.
Oh, Lord. Well, you know what? You could be right. In our progressive society today, forget the Haagen-Dazs, give them Ben & Jerry's.
Mm-hmm.
You could be right.
Okay. Anything else with Bidenomics? Anything happening?
Oh, Robert, there's a lot happening with Bidenomics. Let me share some of our show with you. I'm going to be sharing economic indicators. I'm going to share some of them with you now, but I'm going to share them with you in what I call a percentage-based basis. So to give you a small example, if I share with you that an economic indicator went up from 1% to 1.1%, right? You might not think that sounds important, but if I say to you that indicator in 1 month went up 9%, right? Because that's what 1 plus, to 1.1 is. That's a 9% increase, right? That to me, that for a money manager, that for Wall Street is what they're looking at, right? So now I'm going to share some numbers with you in that regard. So looking at some of the economic indicators for the week, we have good news and bad news. You and your audience should know that we as money managers, there are roughly 20 economic indicators that come out from the federal government per day.
Right.
Per day. So what I did was, of course, every week, we as money managers, we look at all of them, but I grabbed some of what I thought were the more important ones.
All right. Describe the.
Let's talk about some good news, bad news, real quick. Good news. Unemployment from last month to this month, again in percentage terms, went up 9%. Right? That means more people got jobs. Right? Another piece of good news: the gross national product, right? Our GNP went up 5. Right? That's also some great news. Now we just share a little bit of bad news with you. Inflation, as we all know, went up 1 month to 1 month, 66%.
Sounds like the crime statistics.
Business inventories, right? Business inventories are what is in the inventory. And of course, when you have a booming economy, you want the inventory to always be there, but it's going to be always being replenished, right? So those numbers should always be on a booming economy, relatively, minor up, mostly flat, because you're selling, right? You're selling goods and services.
Right.
So business inventories are up 29%. So that means whether they're getting into the supply from the supply chain or not, it's not making it from there to the consumer. Another piece of bad news: imports. Imports have gone up 18%.
Yep.
A month. So of course, when the trade account numbers come out shortly, those are going to be another bad, sign. What does that mean, right? What does all that mean? Well, what that means, and we'll talk about it more on the show, is that now Wall Street this week has been deciding, well, which one is more important? Which one is good news? Which one is bad news? Which one overrides? Well, this week, the markets have pretty much made their decision. As we speak, the market is down 2%.
Oh, 2%. You're killing me. You're killing me.
The bond markets are basically flat. 1 year CDs in the bank, Bob. 1 year CDs in the bank have gone up 29%.
Wow, that's not hard. They were at what were they starting at?
Well, again, in percentage terms. I didn't say they were high from a percentage rate.
Right.
To answer your question, depending on which financial institution you go to, you can get 2%, 3%, depending on which institution you go to and how much money
and what's the mortgage rate
But
then?
from a percentage standpoint, it went up in 1 week 29%.
What's the mortgage rate though?
The percentage or the actual rate?
The rate and the percentage you went up. What are we at?
The rate and percentage it went up, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
But the 10-year mortgage rate, which you could be referring to, is currently at about 2.3%.
That's less than what they're giving out as interest? I thought it would be much more, Anthony.
No, it is much more. It is much more because all you got to do is go and look at your local savings account and see what you're getting. If you're getting 0.02%, you're lucky.
Right.
So, so that's a tremendous difference. Remember, and we concentrate this more on our show. Today, last week.
I'll have to watch your show later then.
Well, again, yes, I would, of course, encourage everybody to watch the show because what I try to do, both in class as well as on the show, is to talk about the net, right? Because as I always say, the gross is fine. Robert Press can make $1 million a year. Means nothing if at the end of the year he has nothing in savings, nothing in investments, and it's all spent.
Or
right? That means you have good cash flow and you're basically in debt.
That's what happens to a business when they start out. And we had that. I'm going to diverge a little because there was a Morris Park Community Association meeting on Wednesday night, and Mr. Yahya Obeid, who is a leader in the Yemenis community and the Yemenis Merchants Association, complained about how long it takes for the merchants to be able to open their doors. It takes a year or even longer for them to open their doors, he said. And these people are paying rent. The guest at the meeting was Andrew Giuliani, who is running for governor on the Republican line, one of the many candidates, which we'll get into a little later also. And, well, his speech was basically, I'm going to repeal the no cash bail law, which, fine, it sounded good. You're talking to people who want that. And he said, well, we're going to make regulations a little less for businesses. But we've heard that before. We've heard that they're going to help business. And what happens? They put more taxes and more regulations on. Right now, they're making them police to say, are you wearing a mask? Where is your vaccination card? So they're putting more regulations on storekeepers, especially restaurants. Then he said, I'm going to use my bully pulpit as governor. What does that mean? To me, it meant that you're the governor, but you can't do anything because the Speaker Hasty of the Assembly and the Senate Majority Leader, Stuart Cousins, it's 2 against 1. So you can't do anything, and they can override your veto now with their supermajority of the Democrats.
So then are you saying that it's very fair to now say, now that all the cards have been put out on the table, is it now fair to say that if these situations continue, we should be looking at getting rid of Andrea Cousins and Carl Hasty immediately? Are you suggesting that?
I'm not saying that, but the Assembly will always be Democrat because it's controlled by the city.
But this goes a little bit beyond Democrat. I mean, I think both Ms. Cousins and Mr. Hasty have been very both specific and explicit about their thoughts.
They're not.
I just don't think you can say Democrat. I think you got to be more detailed about that.
They're not touching no cash bail, they said, both of them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So again, knowing that all the cards are out on the table, right? And I'm glad that, people did put their cards out on the table. Eric Adams gave it a shot, and I'm glad he gave it a shot. I would rather now know what the cards look like than not know what they look like. But now that we know what they look like, is it fair to now say where the real problem will be if this no cash bail contributes to the crime?
The reason why Governor Hochul is not saying anything, and she's being called out on this by the Republicans, why aren't you saying anything? Crime is going up tremendously. You mentioned how inflation is. Crime is going up higher. Okay? We had a Democratic convention that just ended. Where was the surprise? Everybody knew what was going to happen. Everybody knew that Kathy Hochul was going to be the governor's nominee, to Letitia James, the attorney general, and Tom DiNapoli, the controller, with Brian Benjamin.
They did have the surprise.
Yes.
They did have the surprise.
There was one. Yes. That Jumaane Williams could not get 25% to be on the ballot.
No.
That was one surprise. You gave me your surprise.
The surprise was, until of course she messed it up, was that Hillary was going to run again in 2024. And then, of course, after that speech, half of the convention said, well, I might have to think twice about that.
I forgot about that. And when she left, what happened? When she left the convention, there were people outside booing her.
Well, they were booing her when she went in.
Well, but, I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about Hillary Clinton. She was a good, let's see, how can I say it, administrator in the White House. Her husband may have done things. There's a comment up here. I'm going to have to look down to read it. I think Biden and Britain's assumption after neo-Nazi, well, it is from our friend Carlo, who is on the...
Hi, Carlo.
On our show here, on another show, the Poetry Corner or something like that. And he gives a good opinion there, but I don't agree with it. So, he's comparing them to the appeasement almost, that they're appeasing, I almost said Stalin, Putin. But all right, let's continue with the Democratic convention. It was here in the city. It was for 2 days or 2 nights or whatever. And what kind of push did they get out of it? I don't think there's a big push coming out of the Democratic convention because everybody knew what was going to happen. Now, the Republicans, Anthony, are having their convention out in Garden City in 2 weeks. And as a media person, I have an invite to that. And I'm not going, though, to the Republican convention because I know
why didn't you go to the Democratic convention?
Why?
Yeah.
I had other things to do. Okay. I really did want to go, but I'm not a state committee man yet.
But you just said you were a press person, so you
Right.
should have gotten an invite.
Right. I just passed up, and I'm going to pass up the Republican convention. Okay.
Because, you know, Robert, and I know you and I have spoken off air about this, that, you know, if you're looking for work in these conventions, you're not really going to find policy work at the day during the daytime of the convention. Now, of course, in the evening, you'll find a lot of very interesting things, anywhere from fundraising to policy decisions to, let's just call it, midnight madness. And I'm sure that's where 80% of the real work gets done.
At the parties, as you say.
So you just can't say that nothing happened, because you're right. In one sense, you saw just your normal course of things. But if you were, you know, anyone that attended behind the, you know, when the door was closed for the evening, you know, where they had their evening activities, that's where you want, you know, that's where the work gets done. So, hello, Black and Puerto Rican Legislative Caucus. I know it's coming up soon, and I know many people are going to be attending, having a great workshop-related time.
Now, as you say, closed meetings or closed events. There was an event by Bronx progressives to teach you how to get on the county committee. And I was asked to publicize it, which I did. And I got an invite to that, to be on it, you know, to be in the room. And I'm there for about 10 minutes because it was someone from Queens talking. And then Michael Belzer took over the meeting, and zap, I'm kicked out of the room. And when I tried to get back in, I was told the host does not want to let you back in. Anthony, you were in the room. Tell us what happened, because this is not the first time Michael Belzer and I have had it. All right. I have no idea what he's doing. It looks like he's trying to take over the Bronx Democratic County organization. I would warn Jamal Bailey to watch out for him. Don't take him for granted. I have no idea what he was doing. Anthony, please tell us what happened in that meeting.
Oh, boy. To answer your question, yes, Bronx Progressives had a general invite. So to the best of my knowledge, it was open to the public. To the best of my knowledge, I didn't have any problems getting in, nor was I interrupted. The meeting itself seemed to have been a combination of good, what I consider to be good information about, quote, running for county office, as well as, on the other side of that, maybe a solicitation to join their partner. So Bronx Progressives partnered with an organization called Local Democrats of New York, LDNY, where I think it's safe to say as well that we're encouraging.
Anthony,
I'm sorry?
Let me ask you, Anthony, is this the same LDNY from 2018 that Michael Belzer and Sam Elise Lopez had? Because I know Sam Elise was there. I saw 39 people were there when I was there. But LDNY, when in 2018, tried to do, they wanted to get people run for county committee, and they had them sign a paper. It said, we will raise money in your name, LDNY, and we will use it for your campaign or for whatever else use we want or we feel right. So, I mean, is he trying that again to raise money in people's name to use elsewhere?
Well, that part I can't comment on, because when it was time to ask whether one wanted to join or not, I declined, but not for any other reason, but because, of course, I have my own organization. So I can't tell you what was in the paperwork, but what I can tell you is that it seemed to me that Bronx Progressives was hosting the event. The event in general entailed of a couple of workshops and panels. First, the workshops describing how to get on the ballot and do what they consider to be proper petitioning, in their opinion. And then, of course, after describing the process, how this partner organization, LDNY, can sort of help fine tune that process along. So, in my opinion, it seemed like Bronx Progressive was hosting the event. LDNY was describing the ABCs of how to get on the ballot. I did think the workshops were informative to someone that doesn't know the process. Anybody that knows the process might have been semi-bored to death. But for someone that didn't know, I gotta say, I thought the workshops and and then of course the panels had to do with people that went through that same process. So I did think that, that part of it was good. But then towards the end, LDNY, local Democrats in New York, pretty much said, we can help you fine tune it. Come join us.
Was there a part about challenging other people in there? I believe that because I had a couple other people in that room also, and I know that Jeffrey Dinowitz had at least one person in that room. So it's no secret to what Michael Belzer said. Jeffrey Dinowitz and County already know every single word, because I remember him mentioning, don't use more than 9 pages, because then with 9 pages or less, you don't have to file a cover sheet. And that's where people get in trouble. They don't know how to file a cover sheet. But, Mr. Belzer forgot something. And I'm not going to tell him what he forgot, because I may be at the Board of Elections looking at his petitions. Okay. And what do, Anthony? What am I famous for? Knocking people off the ballot.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, yes.
I didn't know you were famous for that. Okay.
Oh, yes. I learned from the master, Don Masters, dropping down the term.
Poor Don. Yes, poor Don.
Yes. Okay. So, Stanley Schlein and, Don were the kings. Okay.
Well,
now,
Robert, as we talk on occasion off air, Don Masters, for our audience that probably doesn't know, which is probably quite a bit. Don Masters was an old muckety muck in his day, going back a couple of decades. But just before he left us, he created at that time a software package,
right,
that was very similar to the Board of Elections, in the sense of, these are the tools you need to get on the ballot. So, 25, 30 years later, today, now we're finding the same tools by different organizations, now what we call cloud-based. So instead of it being on software, you can now do it right on the internet.
But I was told that the one problem Mr. Belzer may have with this is the copyrighted material. Is this material copyrighted by the Board of Elections? Then he's going to have a problem.
That I couldn't tell you.
No, I know that, but let's move on to district lines. Andrew Giuliani said something very interesting at that meeting Wednesday night. When we spoke about district lines, he said the congressional lines are not etched in stone yet, that the Republicans have a lawsuit and they're doing everything they can to overthrow those lines. All right. And one district in particular, which I mean, you and I have talked about this several times, is the new, and I'm using a certain candidate's words, Long Island Sound District, because it covers one side of Long Island Sound in Long Island, all the way around up to Westchester, the other side of Long Island Sound. And the state legislature put these lines into effect. And Senator Biaggi, Alessandra Biaggi, who covers from her area in Pelham through the middle of the Bronx into Riverdale, and moved her office from the east side of the Bronx, where Jeff Klein, her predecessor, had it, to Riverdale. So, I mean, now her Senate district dropped the South Bronx part of it, but still, I don't think she could have gotten elected in the East Bronx. And in the West Bronx, Riverdale is up in arms against her because she's in favor of a homeless shelter for Riverdale. So I don't think she could get reelected in the Senate. So here it looks like she created a congressional district that starts up in Westchester, where she lives, and a little bit above in Scarsdale, Eastchester, goes down. It goes around Co-op City, okay? Because why include Co-op City? Those people may not vote for Biaggi because they're not white, okay? It goes into City Island. It takes half of Throg's Neck, which is the water side, which is on Long Island Sound. But who lives over there, Anthony? Who lives in that part of Co-op City? Of Throg's Neck, okay? The white people. And then she goes into Queens, into Whitestone, and into Great Neck in Long Island, and across into Suffolk County. I would say if you look at that district, it has to be at least 85% white. It's a perfect district for her. It's something like we saw years ago from Guy Villella, when he was a state senator here in Bronx on the east side, he put his district like this. He got this part because there were white people here. He didn't want this part because it was minorities. And you know what, Anthony? 25 years ago, I went to Albany on lobby day, the last lobby day we had. I went into Guy Villella's office, okay? There's nothing to say about Guy Villella. And we had people from the Grand Concourse who were Hispanic. Guy Villella looked at those people and said, where do you live? Oh, they said, we live on the Grand Concourse. He said to them, oh, your representative is Ephraim Gonzalez at the time, it was. He's in the next office. Go to him. Go see him. He didn't want to talk to these people. And I'm getting feeling that this is what current state Senator Biaggi is doing, that she doesn't want to talk to certain people. And unfortunately, it helps Alessandra Ocasio because it takes the people who are voting against her away from her. Okay, that's where Mr. Cunningham, who ran against her 2 years ago, was from.
Robert, to get back to the original part of, I believe was going to be your question. Would I like to see the lines, or do I think there's enough evidence to say that the line should be redrawn? Of course there is. On the other side of the coin, as I've said to you many times off record, the only problem with that is that we live in the state of New York. What does that mean? That means New York State doesn't follow the law, right? So 49 out of 50 states would say these lines got to be redrawn. State of New York, they're just going to turn their head. Who's the big winner? I said it on this show several months ago. The one that puts out the envelope first. And I've said it 6 months ago, and I'll say it again right now. Congratulations, Richie Torres.
Well, let's hold that because our producer wants to go to a break. So, Mr. Producer, take it away. Let's go to our commercials.
World Inkers Monthly magazine is a fine source for your literary interests. It's an all-source magazine with poetry, prose, and essays and articles, as well as interviews. It's all full-color art and photography from a variety of voices and artists. You will find this magazine entertaining. This is an all-purpose readership, and we are looking for new voices. This sleek, full-color edition of World Inkers Monthly magazine will be something pleasant for your eyes as well as for your mind. And we're looking for authors for one book promotion in the magazine. If you're a business, we want to promote your business. You may submit your book reviews, your academic or non-academic articles on the humanities and the arts, as well as your literary writing and creative output to publication.worldinkers@gmail.com. World Inkers. Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, and how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University.
And
do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely convince you.
Okay, we're back. Anthony, do you want to continue?
Where was I?
Talking about Richie Torres and the congressional lines.
So, to me, he won, right? So everything else has to be readjusted. To get back to your original part, sure, in that readjustment, many lines have changed. I mean, of course, Biaggi's is being looked at more than most, but there are several districts that I'm sure could make that somewhat of the same claim. And I think they would be right. Again, the problem is that we live in the state of New York. Why is that a problem? Well, for a number of different reasons, but one in particular is we elect our judges. We don't appoint them, right? They don't win the lotto, or they do win the lotto, but in another way. They win it politically, right? They claim their objective, but they win their office politically, right? So obviously one doesn't go with the other. So every time I hear statements where this person's going to jail, this person's gonna get in jail for corruption, I always ask the one question: what state did he or she, what state did it happen? Did it happen in Georgia? They'll go to jail. Did it happen in California? They'll go to jail. Did it happen in New York? Where are they gonna go? On vacation.
Well, let's just finish up on the congressional lines, because it seems that the Democrats are going after Malliotakis, and Max Rose is running for his seat again that he lost to her. Bill de Blasio has decided, no, I'm not running for Congress. Charlene, where is the Thrive money? Let's move to a private island like what is it, Bloomberg? We have enough money, right? He's got his house that's worth $2 million and pays taxes it's worth $50,000 or whatever. He's done whatever he could to make money. Then we have the Gerald Nadler district. Okay, this district it goes from Manhattan, and it covers every little piece that can add a person that will vote for Nadler. It goes into Brooklyn. It goes, then there's Carolyn Maloney. Her opponent, I can't pronounce his name, Suraj Patel, is running for the third time against him. Okay. Could this be the charm? Because if we remember, Adriano Espaillat ran 3 times against Charlie Rangel, and the third time was a charm for him to win. But let's talk about Adriano's district, Anthony. What do we see in Adriano's district? It looked like he was going to get Riverdale, and he was going to become a power in the Bronx. What happened to Congressman Adriano Espaillat?
Well, to try to explain it to your audience in visual terms, before the redistricting, he covered, and I'm only going to now talk the Bronx part of the district. He covered the slithering part of the Roberto Clemente Towers coming north to the North Bronx. When I say the North Bronx, I indicate that as going over the Fordham Road line, going all the way up to Bedford Park, Marshall Parkway, Norwood, and even even some outer skirts of that. That was before the redistricting. After the redistricting, they still have him on his slither at the Roberto Clemente Towers. Now, instead of going north, he goes east. He goes east. And he basically stays parallel while he's slightly going up, slightly. But that slightness only goes pretty much as far as Tremont Avenue. In some areas, it does go a little higher. You could say 183rd as a boundary line, and I'm being very liberal when I say 180. So in essence, they've pretty much taken him out of the North Bronx, even below Fordham Road, and he could be, if he wishes to be, a player in Bronx politics from Tremont Avenue on down. But keep in mind what he gained, right? Because he lost that, right? So what he basically, by the design, gained more power in Washington Heights, which of course where part of his base is initially. So the winner, in my opinion, is Adriano for having his base more concentrated. The bad news for Adriano is, of course, that concentration is no longer now in the North Bronx, and I would venture to say it will take him time to reinstitute himself as a South Bronx player, but I really don't actually expect it to be that long because, as you know, some of the South Bronx players are no longer there, right? So I'm sure as he gets all refuddled, I'm sure Mr. Espaillat might want to be a part of that mix. He might not want to be a part of that mix.
Well, what's happening is, and Anthony will be the perfect example, because who is your congressman currently?
As of today, Richie Torres.
No. That's as of January 1st. Who is your congressman right now?
Richie Torres.
I thought it was Adriano Espaillat.
Well, before the redistricting, yes.
Right. No. That's as of January 1st that goes into effect. Because technically, it may not be Richie Torres.
You're right. You know what, Robbie? You're right. You're absolutely right. You're right. My current congressman is Adriano Espaillat.
And it's expected to become Richie Torres, right?
It's expected to be whoever wins that race, which many would expect.
Your current state senator is?
My current state senator is Jamal Bailey.
And he will no longer be your state senator.
Correct.
It would have become, what's the name? Alessandra Biaggi had she run for her own district. So you will get a new state senator also.
Well, Northwest Bronx Democrats is looking into that because, of course, now that little area, which was a slither in that district before, has now become much more wider. So that's something that our organization is exploring.
For the triple play, Anthony, you have a new assemblyman also. You're no longer in the 80th Assembly District. You're now in the 78th Assembly District, aren't you?
Our club, like
you personally, Anthony. You personally. You're now in the 78th Assembly.
No. I'm gonna integrate the both because I think it's fair to do that. Our club, as well as your question, has literally turned into the situation in Bedford Park. What I mean by that is that it took 4 redistrictings to basically turn Bedford Park from the 80th to the 78th. So now our club, which represents Bedford Park and Norwood, has now, you could say, been cut in half. Half of us now are in the 78th. The other half are in the 80th.
Yes.
We had a meeting about that last night with some future things to be discussed.
So basically, you've been put in an area where you have 3 new representatives coming in. And next year, the city council is redistricting, so you could technically have a new city council person next year. Oswald Felice could be your city councilman.
I strongly believe, and of course I could be wrong, and that the Bedford Park section of the 11th Councilmatic District is a very small piece of the district. Of course, Bedford Park aligns itself with Norwood, which makes it bigger. But if you look at Bedford Park separately, it's a very small piece of the district. And as I said, and I've always said this when it comes to redistricting, I try to not look at it in a biased way, in a very objective way, is how I look at it. That if you have a Chad on the wall and you say clean up that wall, well, the proper thing to do is not to tear up the wall, right? Because that's what you're talking about earlier when you say, oh, we're going to take this to court, right? Because now you're breaking up the whole wall. No, the right thing to do, which they did do in my case, and I was in agreement with it, is you chop off the Chad. And
Well,
you know, after cutting Bedford Park for 30 years, that's what happened. There were some Chads that were left.
Right. I mean, it appeared Jose Rivera didn't want you, and the 80th just kept changing from Mark Jonai, who had you, and to Natalia Fernandez, who may have gotten rid of you. All right, said, yeah, Jose, you take it. Or as we saw, Marshall Parkway is now the southern part is in Jose Rivera's district.
No.
What's
Marshall Parkway is still represented on the 80th Assembly District side. The Service Road, the southern Service Road part, the Bedford Park part, Service Road, is now belongs to Assemblyman Jose Rivera, and anything south of that.
Right, and above
Marshall Parkway belongs in the 80th Assembly District. And
above is either the 80th or when you go further up towards Montefiore Hospital, the 81st Assembly District.
You know, but I'll tell you the truth, I didn't realize we were loved so much. I really didn't realize how that county loved us so much. The 80th is absolutely amazing. And let me tell you, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm not a great mathematician, okay? When you take out the Bedford Park section, right, which is done, and now you've rearranged Norwood. What do I mean by rearranging? Well, now Natalia strictly represents the Jerome Avenue area of the district. That's now full 100%. But Jeffrey Dinowitz, full 100%, represents Gun Hill Road.
Right.
So which one was more? The one that was more was the Gun Hill Road part.
Right.
So Norwood, in practice, has now gotten more of Norwood. What does that mean for the 80th Assembly District in its totality on the west side? That means the whole percentage of it has actually gotten smaller.
Right. And
I didn't realize we were loved so much.
I was at a Community Board 11 meeting where we had a public hearing about the White Plains Road shelter. Okay. And the district leader for the 80th Assembly District was there. You know, he gave a little speech and he asked me, am I still in the district? Because everybody thought he was going to be cut out of the district and put into the 81st. But as you say, it goes up to one block by him. He's got a little Chad for a couple of blocks and he's still in the 80th. It appears Jeffrey Dinowitz said, I don't want him in my district, you keep him. So he's still in the 80th.
I'm not sure if that was the reason why he did it. I think we might disagree on that. I think what probably made more sense was the easiest way to make both assembly people happy. Because keep in mind, right, what's between Jerome and Gun Hill? Montefiore land. And they both wanted to represent it, right? They, of course, as we know, even fight over it, right? So it was a great way of saying, look, you got Jerome, right? Because God forbid Jeffrey gets Jerome, right? I'm not even sure if Jeffrey really wants Gun Hill, but that's another conversation. But now they both get to represent Norwood, but more importantly, Montefiore.
Right. Well, Jeffrey has taken that. But, you know, you remember.
No. Give credit where credit is due. And the one that deserves the credit is Montefiore. Why should I take one envelope when now I can take two?
Right, but they know this, the Assembly and the Senate no longer give out money. That has to go through the.
No, I ain't talking about. Wow, man.
You know, it has to go. And look at where our past Bronx Democratic County leader wound up in a job for $400,000 with who? Go ahead.
What, Montefiore?
And our recent borough president, who was term limited out, where has he wound up?
Well, I got a feeling between both of them, poor Jason Carabillo. Jason Carabillo, if you don't know him, Robert, was right? I mean, he still is, but I don't know about was.
I know.
Right? He was the community relations director at Montefiore Hospital. I have a feeling, based on recent events, I just hope he's still there come Monday.
No, they're going to have to cut.
I don't think he will be.
They're going to have to cut staff to make up for these budgets, for these salaries. But so it's amazing the way the districts get chopped up, like you say. All right. And it's also, if you run against an opponent and they can redistrict you out, they will. It happened to our friend who recently passed away, our dear departed friend Ricky Martinez, who ran against Jeff Klein in 2000. And in 2002, when it was redistricted, all of a sudden he's in Jose Rivera's district, the 78th. He went from the 80th to the 78th. And that's not, an unusual thing. But let's continue a little bit, because we brought up the 80th Assembly District, okay? We now have an open state Senate seat that runs through the 80th Assembly District. We have certain people saying, and it's been reported in the political news, that Natalia Fernandez is interested in the seat. Marjorie Velazquez, the new councilwoman for the area, is interested in the seat. The other names mentioned has been John Doyle, who is with Jacoby Hospital, and he's also a campaign worker for Michael Benedetto, who is running for re-election this year.
Campaign worker? That man, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that man the district leader?
Well, that too, but he's...
Oh, that too, okay.
aligned. Well, hey, Miss Velazquez, Councilwoman Velazquez, is the district leader also in there, the female district leader.
Oh, I'll say a prayer.
Well, we're not going to go into anything, but she did not win the 82nd Assembly District, where she's the district leader, and a Community Board 10 member for a long time, which should tell us something.
Tells you something, doesn't it?
It should tell us something about what's coming up in possibly the Assembly race there. Okay, watch out for the Republican in the Assembly race. But let's continue with the 80th. Okay, we have Christian Amato, who is running for state committee. Technically, he says, but he's interested in Biaggi's seat because he says he helped put Biaggi in. All right. So do I run for Congress here in the 14th congressional district because I say I helped get my friend here, Ms. Ocasio, in? No. Okay, I want to help people. I don't want to really run. It's announced that I'm running for male district leader, but now all of a sudden there are 3 or 4 people challenging me. Remy Salas came out of the woodwork on August 5th. Sammy Ravella was running for, who knows what he was running. Now all of a sudden he's running for district leader. We have Marco Sierra, who's the current district leader, male district leader, who's running for re-election. And, I had to tell him, yeah, Marcos, you're still in the district. And we have John Sicaro Jr. running for something. He's the former district leader that Marco Sierra beat. So these people were not announced when I announced that I wanted to be district leader. And Anthony, what do you say about the East Side, the tree on the East Side, the political tree? What has happened?
Oh my Lord. To educate your audience, because I know as a fact some of the Bronx old timers watch the show. I can't speak about the young timers, and forgive me for putting it that way, but all you got to do is reference my hair. A lot of people don't recognize that the 80th Assembly District was the East Side, West Side district. So we've always had friendly disagreements politically when it came to the East Side, West Side. And I say friendly because for the most part, not every time, but for the most part, those things were able to work themselves out. Those trees, as I like to call them, and what I mean by tree is your state assemblyship, your state senateship, your district leadership, your state committeeship, and as it gets built, right, I call it a political tree. Well, those trees, both on the east and on the west, were always good and always solid and always worked over the years. And then in the 1990s, when the North Bronx started to change and new people moved in, old timers moved out, that tree started to, both trees started to get dormant. So what happened over the course of the last 20 years? Well, On the east side, you had a wonderful organization that was created that I helped founded called Liberty Democrat. Liberty Democrats in the year 2006, I believe it was actually created. Our original creation was supposed to be to unify the East and West politically. And for the first couple of years, the club was very active in doing that. You actually had members from both the East and the West side really working together. Well, the 2000, I believe it was 2008 80th Assembly election basically broke that back up. Liberty Democrats decided, I believe, to support Naomi Rivera at that time. The West Siders had some concerns about it for reasons I won't get into on the show. Basically, the East Siders on the club basically threw the West Siders out. So what did the West Siders do? Hello, Northwest Bronx Democrats. That's what brings us to the game, for lack of a better word. So for the last 10 years, what you had were two trees. You still, you know, it went from two trees to one tree, back to two trees. And those two trees for the last 10 years were actually working okay. Now, 10 years later, well, some of the leaders of the East Side tree are no longer with us. Jeff Klein, whether you liked him or loved him or hate him, he was one of the leaders of the East Side tree. Mark Jonai, whether you liked him or loved him or hate him, was also a member of the East Side tree. You had several people, staff people, campaign people that were working on that tree that also are no longer with us, including some of them with the good Lord. Right. So the East Side has now, in essence, lost that tree.
Right. And when it
which
came
now
down,
brings anyone, you know, to
and
say,
now,
hey, I want to run for office.
Anthony, okay, we're running out of time. I wanted, and with Assemblywoman Natalia Fernandez, that tree has gotten even smaller. The branches have gone off it.
Yes.
What I want to say, though, is, okay, Borough President Gibson, and notice I didn't say Diaz, I got it right and said Gibson, is looking for community board people, for people to apply for community board, people interested in the community. All right. Yeah. I applied last year, and Borough President Diaz took 10 people who basically, some of them haven't even attended a meeting on Community Board 11 and put them on. All right. I am going to give my application into Borough President Gibson. There are vacancies right now, and Community Board 11 is facing a very tough issue on this homeless shelter on White Plains Road, a single adult men's, as well as two other single adult men's homeless shelter, which I'm right in the middle of now. Okay.
You know, Robert, I think you should let the audience know, especially before we go off the air, if anyone is interested in learning and, more importantly, joining their local community board, you should get in touch very quickly with either your city councilman, your local muckety-muck, or even the borough president's office.
Or the community board.
The community board right now is accepting Bronx-wide applications.
Right.
The borough president herself is giving out her own suggestions of recommendations.
Okay. Well, Anthony, what I want to say...
But I'm only saying that for the audience, that if anybody is interested from the audience...
What I want to say, Anthony, if Borough President Gibson, and my application from last year is still in there, we have vacancies on Board 11. If I was to be put on Board 11 to help with this homeless situation that the board has and other things in Board 11, that I would drop any bid for running for office, for district leader or even assembly, should Assemblywoman Fernandez move up or try to move up. All right. So that's my pledge, that I would not run. I would go, you know, and be with the community that I live in right now, because that's what I am, a community person. I was on Community Board 8 for 6 years. I had fun on there. I was vice chair of 2 committees and chair of a committee. And I'm here right now. Community Board 11 is in a situation.
Robert, but wait a minute. But I want to understand what you're saying. The political members of our audience know that petitions are going to be starting very, very shortly.
That's right.
So yes, the Borough President Gibson is accepting applications right now. but she's not going to be approving them right away.
Right, but we have.
So are you going to run, or are you saying to our audience now that you're going to put in the application, presume the
application from last year is there.
You're not going to run?
Anthony, 2 people have left Community Board 11 this year, and my application is still in the office.
Right, but I'm only asking you because of timing scenarios. Right. Because if you wait to get approved or not approved,
I understand that.
There won't be any time for you to run.
I understand that. And district leaders can be on community boards because we've had them.
No, I'm not questioning whether you can or can't. What I'm saying is that right now there's a very small period of time to put you on a ballot. So, if you're going to wait to see if you're approved,
basically,
or not approved,
Anthony,
what you're saying is that cycle is going to pass you by.
Anthony, the Bronx Democratic Party got me off of Community Board 8 in 2016. Benny Cataya and John Sicaro Jr. said, Mr. Press, you're up for reappointment. You better watch out.
Right.
Okay. And what happened was, I was not reappointed at the last minute by Borough President Diaz. He was a good old country boy or county boy.
Right.
Okay?
But that's my point, bro.
Wait, Anthony, let me finish. Anthony, we're running out of time.
John telling you that and it happening.
We're running out of time, so I'm telling Jamal Bailey, and I'm telling Borough President Gibson, and Bailey because he's the county leader. You put me on right now, and I will support your candidate for district leader. That's my pledge right now. Okay? And it can be done. All right? Now let's end the show, Mr. Producer. Thank you.
Well, wait a minute.